Cool. Alright. So, hold on, let me put my hat. Got my phone in my hat. Alright. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about a few things on my mind this morning. Um, the first one being the current mentality of our country in America. There seems to be this running mentality that if you don't like what's going on here in America, you need to leave. Like my grandfather, I was just talking to him, and he agrees with 90% of what I say. But then he wants to come back at me and say that I need to spend time in other countries so that I can appreciate the freedoms that I have in my own. And I get this a lot from a lot of different people. And I want to say it is complete ludicrousy. When I talk to anybody about the current state of affairs, political agendas, anything, I try my very best not to speak from a place of ignorance. If I don't know enough about a subject, I learn it. I research it. And it doesn't matter whether it's political, spiritual, religious, I don't care. It could be about electricity. If I don't know enough about electricity, I'm not going to talk about electricity. And so when people all the time start talking about how, well, if you love Russia so much, I don't love Russia. I don't love the United States. I don't love any country. I love people. I love freedom. I love justice. I love animals. I love life itself. And it's irrelevant to me whether or not you come from America, Mexico, Canada, China, Germany. I don't give a fuck. The facts of the matter for me are, you're alive. And there is some spark of divinity in you, some miracle that put you here. Because it took 14 billion years of stars living and dying and exploding their gases all across the universe so that the right star could form the right planet to form you and me and everything. We are all one of some great organism as far as I'm concerned. So if I hate you, I hate me. It's like a single cell in your body hating the cell next to it. It's pointless for me. And when we fight together, it's like the immune system fighting itself, as far as I'm concerned. Bad things happen. If the human immune system starts fighting itself, it'll die. It will. It'll kill itself. And I view humans the same way. If we start fighting over nationality, over what country we're from, because we love our country, we're fighting our own selves. We're an immune system fighting itself. And similar to if your white blood cells kill all of your red blood cells, they die. If we as humans destroy every other human, we die. And so I don't love other countries. I don't love my own country. I love ideas, and ideas change. And so the idea for me that other people think it is rational and logical to say you need to experience the horrors of the world. You need to experience these third world countries and these countries that'll shoot you for saying something bad about your government, for you to really appreciate the freedoms you have here. I don't care about that. I don't care how China runs their government, how China runs their people. I don't care how Russia runs their country. It's not my country. It's none of my damn business how they do things over there. And I don't have to go over to another country and experience the problems they have to appreciate the freedoms I have in my own. Because I don't have freedoms in my own. And I don't have to put myself into a situation where I might be exposed to other countries' lack of freedom to appreciate my own lack of freedom. You know, and I want to point out too that what's going on right now with Russia and Donald Trump, Putin, that whole thing. I want to point out the biggest reason I get for why we don't like Russia. They want to destroy our way of life. What do they gain from that? They already, if that is truly the case, they already tried that once, and it led to the Cold War, which has never ended. It led to the two major superpowers of nuclear ability pointing their biggest guns at each other and threatening to blow each other up. It didn't work last time. Why would they try again? And another point I'd like to point out on that is here in America, we're always preaching that other countries want to destroy our way of life. They don't have to. We have already done it for them. Okay. In other countries, you'll get locked away or shot for speaking against their government. Here in America, you will get locked away or shot for speaking against your government. The difference being that when here in America you get shot or locked away for speaking against your government, they come up with some bogus charge to justify it, and the people agree. If you're in Mexico and you speak against your government and they shoot you on the street for it, the people will not tolerate it. And people will say, how can you say that never being to Mexico? Because I've met people from Mexico. When you're born in a country, you are raised and you map your reality around this country. And it shines through every action that you do because it is the way of life for you. And I was born and raised in America. And as a result, my natural tendency when I see things is to wonder how much money I can get from them. And it is a constant battle for me because I'm not someone who likes money. I don't obsess over it. I could really give a fuck less. As long as I've got these, my medicines, and maybe a beer and some coffee, I could really give a fuck less about having a bunch of money. I'd be happy with a tent in the woods. And so when you're raised in a country, it shines through. The way how your country thinks is the way how you think until you make an active decision against it. I've mentioned in the last video, the declaration of intent, that I'm, by all definitions of the word, homeless. And I've traveled and hitchhiked around this country for 5 years now. The very first ride that I ever caught, I started in Tallahassee. I actually started right next to the University of Florida. Sorry, Florida State University. Sorry. It's like fighting words down here. Yeah, Florida State University. And I walked from Tallahassee all the way up to just south of Bainbridge, Georgia, before I caught a ride. And I was just south of Bainbridge, Georgia, when a truck pulled over. And it was a Mexican. And he could barely speak English. I mean, he and I spoke enough English together that we could communicate where I was going, why I was traveling, and what lovely weather we were having. Like, that's about it. He barely spoke English. But he pulled over, and he helped me. Now keep in mind that here in the South, Mexicans are not tolerated the way they are over in the West Coast. You don't speak English down here, you have a much higher risk of somebody talking trash to you. But he pulled over and he helped me. Because in his country, That's just what you do. You don't let people walk down the road in the heat. You know, I've talked to other foreigners who come here and want to travel. Backpacking is actually a very predominant thing across the world. People do it all over the place. Have been for thousands of years now. And I was in San Francisco, and I was walking across the Golden Gate Bridge, and I had just gotten across to the other side out of San Francisco, and there was a on ramp right there, and there was a guy flying a sign and trying to catch a ride and doing the do, and just another day, another time. Um, but he was thoroughly upset. Like he was on the verge of tears, yelling at the cars. And me being me, I was like, "Hey, man, you all right?" And he said in a very, very thick Scottish accent, "No, I'm not." I was like, "Well, man, you want to smoke a bowl? Like, I know how it is out here. You want to relax for a minute?" And he said, "Yeah, sure, I love that." And as we were talking, he broke down into tears. He was horrified at the way how we treat each other here. He was telling me in his country, hitchhiking is a normal means of transportation. If you stick your thumb out and within 2 minutes, someone's pulling over to give you a ride, and they don't fear you. They're not scared of you. They don't hate you. And most of all, they don't drive by and honk their horns and laugh and videotape you. They help. Um, and so for me, there's this idea that we in America have better than everywhere else. And from what I can tell, it's just not true. Um, now I'm always being told that I'm against my country. Um, that I obviously hate my country. And I want to make it clear for the record that I do not hate my country. I'm I am an outlaw only on the fact that I have to sleep at night, and it's illegal. I am an outlaw solely for the fact that I do not believe it is the right of my government to tell me what I can and cannot put inside my own body. So therefore, I don't care. But I ask you, if the people who we pay to uphold our laws aren't following those laws, why should I? It's not unknown that police do drugs too. It's not unknown that police will take your weed from you to smoke themselves. And if they smoke it, why shouldn't I? Now, I'd also like to talk on a fact of propaganda. And the biggest form of propaganda that I hear is we are the land of the free and home of the brave. It's a lie. We are not the land of the free, and we are not the home of the brave. And I ask two questions for this. If we are truly the land of the free, how can we have more incarcerated than any other country in history? And if we are the land of the brave, can we call ourselves that when we won't even step out of our houses to help someone screaming? Can we call ourselves the home of the brave when our law enforcement is so scared of the people that they'll pull their guns on you for no reason? It seems to me like we are the land of the slave and home of the cowards. It's not brave to invade other countries for their resources. It's not free to lock your citizens up for no crime because they haven't hurt Anybody. It's not free. That's not brave. Another propaganda that we hear is we are the best country in the world. When I was a kid, and there's actually a movie on this. If you ever watched Thank You for Smoking, you'll know exactly where I'm getting this, and you'll know exactly how I responded to this exact assignment in school. Just like in that movie, I was assigned to write a 3-page essay on why America was the best country in the world. That's bullshit. You can't ask somebody that. Because, first of all, it's a subjective question. Everybody will have a different answer for it. For me, I would say America's the best country in the world at locking people up and bombing countries with brown people. We are the best at taking over the world. We're the best at warfare. We are a wartime nation. Other people would say it's because we're free. What does that mean? Are you free because you are free to walk down the street and buy a Coca-Cola if you want to? Or are you free because you can drive your car down the street without having to pay anybody else for it? Are you free because you can go on a walk if you want to? Or are you free because while you're on that walk, a police officer can roll up and search your belongings without any consent or probable cause? Are you free because you have got unalienable rights given to you by whatever God you believe in because you were born? Or are you free because the government tells you to waive those rights to keep you safe? Here in America, we founded our country. Our founding fathers founded our country on 3 very, very simple ideas. Everybody, man, woman, and child, no matter what skin color, no matter what sexual orientation, no matter what, every man, woman, and child has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I want to break down what these 3 things mean real quick. The right to life means you have the right to live. You have the right to be alive. The right to liberty means you have the right to live freely. You have the right to walk down the street if you want to. You have the right to go camping if you want to. You have the right to build things if you want to. You have the right to speak whatever you want to speak without fear of legal persecution. Social persecution is one thing, but legal persecution is another. And you have the right to pursue your own happiness. Meaning you have the right to live your life freely in a manner that makes you most happy, as long as you do not violate other people's right to live their life freely in a manner that makes them most happy. This does not mean working a 9 to 5. You are not free because you have the right to choose what job you want to work at. You are free because you have the right to say, I don't want to work. You are free because you have the right to say, I don't want to pay for a house. I don't want to pay for a piece of property. I don't want to live with humans. So I'm going to move to the public land that is mine and yours. And I'm going to go far enough away that I will not disturb anybody and build my house there and collect the resources that I need there. Hunt, fish, gather water, homestead. That is freedom. Freedom is the ability to walk down the street with whatever you want to walk down the street with. If you want to walk down the street with an assault rifle on your back, do it. You have the right to keep and bear arms. The right to keep means you have the right to have. And the right to bear means the right to show you have. And people don't understand why these laws and why these rights are in effect. You have the right to freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom of press. Not because it's right to be able to do those things, but because freedom of speech allows for controversial conversations to take place. It allows you to criticize your government and your fellow man so that they might improve. Hold them accountable. When your government does something wrong, you have the right to speak up against it so that other people know that your government has done something wrong and they can then fix that. You have the right to religion because it's not up to anybody else to tell you who to believe in. That's on you. We all come to our gods in our own manner and fashion. And I believe that all of these names for all of these different gods are just different names. For me, it doesn't matter what God you believe in. What matters is how you live your life. And there are only two teams. Because life itself is already inherently suffering. We're all going to suffer through our life. It's what makes life meaningful. It's the pain and anguish of life that brings beauty and love and joy. And you might not follow Jesus. You might follow Hare Krishna. You might follow Zeus. You might follow Odin. And nobody has the right to tell you otherwise, unless you step and infringe upon others' rights to do so. And the right to the press, the right to journalism, means that every individual, whether they are press or not, has the right to videotape, the right to document, the right to expose, and the right to publish anything and everything they wish to publish. If it is false, then it is false. If it is real, people will believe it. And if it's conspiracy, one of the biggest things for me is conspiracy theories. Just because something is a conspiracy does not mean that it's not real. And we need to remember that. The right to keep and bear arms, to protect oneself from all threats, foreign and domestic. The word foreign means not from whatever land they're in, basically. They're not from there. And domestic means they are. It means at home. So, the right to keep and bear arms is not meant for personal safety against your fellow man. It's not what it was intended for. It's definitely part of it, but that's not what it was meant for. The right to keep and bear arms is specifically intended for your government officials, your police, politicians, and any police and politicians or military from an external country. When your police violate your right to privacy in your home, when they intrude upon your house without your consent, they are trespassing. And just like any other person who is trespassing on your property, you have the right to defend it. They have got a gun. They are lethal. And you have the right to protect yourself and your family and your property from people like that. That's why we have the Second Amendment. It also says that you have the right to keep and bear arms of equal armament to your government. Do I believe that it is responsible that everybody have a nuclear warhead in their backyard? No, absolutely not. don't think it's responsible at all. Do I think that everybody has the right to? Yes. See, the Second Amendment was put into place to protect people and from their government. But it was also set into place for accountability. If you don't want your populace, your citizenry, your civilian nature, your civilian populace, to have weapons of mass destruction, then you as a country and you as a government do not build weapons of mass destruction. Because the moment you do, the people have the right to it. That way, in the event that the government turns on the people, they have got equal arms to fight, equal arms to defend themselves. If we were to go to war with our government right now, we wouldn't stand a chance. Because they've got thermonuclear warheads, and we don't. See, people think that the amendments are good ideas. They're good philosophies to live your life by. That's not true. The 10 Amendments in the Bill of Rights set into stone to protect our freedom, to protect us. And I'm going to give a little bit of history on this. When the Constitution was first written, it was put into place, and the people who were there to make sure that it was working, to make sure that it had everything they wanted, all of the representatives, said, hey, you left out some things, and we want to be able to guarantee our freedom, no matter what. So our founding fathers went back, and they made the first 10 amendments. This is very important, because what it means is that our founding fathers viewed these as such inherent nature that they didn't even put it in. And the people felt the need to stick it in so that it would be a constant reminder to future generations that no matter what, you are guaranteed these rights. And the moment these rights are violated, it's time to stand. So the big question that I ask all the time is, if our rights are constantly being violated and people are aware that our rights are being violated, why don't they do anything? Why is it that the masked citizens don't stand up? Why do they just lie down and take it? Because Gavin Symes got a point. There's more tyranny in America today than there's ever been, ever. Our level of tyranny and fascism makes the Third Reich look like amateurs. It makes the redcoats look like children. And the reason for it is our technologies. We've got more ability to monitor our citizens than they ever had. But if we endure more tyranny today than they ever did, why aren't we enraged? Why aren't we beating our chests and screaming and yelling and jumping up and down in the masses? Why are we going home after the federally allotted time for a protest? And I'll tell you, the human brain is wired in very specific manners. Ancient, primal manners. You've got the neocortex, right? And the neocortex sits on top of other things. But it's one of the more primary things. It's where we get our consciousness out of, right? The neocortex is our conscious mind. It's the thing that interprets everything else that the brain is doing and translates it into our conscious mind. But we all know that there are parts of the brain that we don't access. We call it the subconscious mind. And this is where our instincts come from. It's why we do what we do without questioning why we do it. It's why when we're hungry, we go eat. It's why when we're thirsty, we go get water. It's why when a danger is present, we instinctually feel it. You know, even if you've never spent any time in the woods, you've lived in the city your entire life, The moment you go into the woods and all of the bugs stop and it becomes dead silent, you know there's something wrong. Even if you don't know what that something is. Me personally, the amount of time I've spent in the wilderness, I recognize that. It's predators nearby. There's something in the woods that is scaring the bugs to be silent, and it's near you. But even if you don't know that, your body will tell you there's something wrong. Your hair stands up, you get goosebumps, you get chills. You know something's wrong. And it's because of the way our brain is mapped. There are ancient primal factors of our brain that allow us to map our reality. And children, the reason they're so rambunctious, the reason they're always climbing trees and roughhousing, and they're learning. Yeah, a child is a very complex creature. When a child plays house, it is not mimicking what you do as a parent. It is looking at what parents do as on a societal level, generalizing all of it, and then pulling the similarities out of every parent that they can find, and compiling it together and going, this is what it means to be a parent. And then they act that out. A young girl does not mimic her mom when playing house. She mimics the idea of a mom. A child is full of energy and rambunctious because he needs to be. A child is full of energy so that he can run around and play and figure out what he can and can't do, what hurts and what doesn't, what's socially acceptable and what isn't. Like, this is what children do. It builds their critical thinking. It builds their social skills. It builds all of the things necessary for them to be a productive, functioning adult. But here in America, we pumped our children full of psychotropic drugs to get them to calm down. And we don't fully realize what's going on. When you give a child mood stabilizers, what you're doing is you're shutting down the play centers of their brain. And in a brain that is still being developed, when you shut down those play centers, if they're off too long, they never come back on. And this is why we've got adults who don't think. They're not critically able. They're not critically thinking. They're not capable of it. Why we've got adults who've got zero social cues. Because as children, they were pumped full of drugs and they don't know social cues. They were never taught them by their peers. It's why we've got people running around and shooting people. Because they were never taught how to deal with those emotions. And you can't force them back forever. We all know that there is nothing in this world that matches the wrath of a 5-year-old. A 5-year-old doesn't get a piece of candy they want and the world has ended. But as they grow up, they grow to understand that that reaction is just not reasonable. It is an overreaction. But if they never learned that, because they never had those outbursts as children, when they get them as adults, they don't know how to handle them. I was pumped full of psychotropic drugs as a kid, and it's really damaged my mind. I don't read social cues like other people do. I have a hard time doing it. I don't get along very well with other people because all the way through my schooling years, I was pumped so full of drugs that I never wanted to play with anybody. I never wanted to do anything. I had family issues that arose that kept me from exploring, kept me from doing things. I didn't learn to fire a gun until I was fully grown as an adult because my mom had an overreaction. She was irrational and thought I would just shoot myself. I had many opportunities as a child that my parents denied because irrational fears. And children need these. And it's one of the biggest problems with our country. The reason why people aren't standing up, the reason why they aren't upset the way we are, me and other people like me is because they're not physically capable of it anymore. They have a minor anxiety attack and they take drugs. Anxiety attacks are normal. They're not a mental disorder. They are a natural reaction to the world around you. Okay? When you're at a party and there's loud noise and there's a bunch of people and your hands start getting sweaty and your heart starts pounding and you start getting anxious, it's your body telling you that there are too many people to keep you safe. Get out. It's not a mental disorder. It's not a handicap. It is a natural reaction. When the police try to violate your rights and you get angry and upset, they say that you are acting irrationally. It is an irrational action to not get upset. Displayment of emotion is not a mental disorder. And this is why our country refuses to stand. This is why we have got so many problems. We need to get off of our mood stabilizers so that our moods will come back. Why aren't we having emotional reactions? Because we're taking mood stabilizers. Now, I also hear being homeless. Just get a job. Get a house. The police can't mess with you on your own property. And I know a lot of people will think that I'm homeless because I'm lazy. And I'm homeless because I just want to do drugs. Or I'm homeless because there's something wrong with me. It's not why I live the way I do. I live the way I do because it is an unconstitutional law that says you can't camp on public land. Urban camping bans are unconstitutional. They're a violation of human rights. And it is the civil duty and obligation of every citizen and patriot to violate unconstitutional rules. So as long as my people, as long as the homeless are being rounded up, having their tents taken away, being put in jail for sleeping, I will be on the streets. I might get a house. I might get property. But I will always go back to living in a tent. Because as long as I am living in a tent, I remember. It's obvious that our country is falling. It is the biggest indicator of fascism when the homeless are not allowed to sleep. It's the biggest indicator of tyranny. And until the homeless are allowed to sleep without fearing for their lives, I will fear for my life going to sleep. I gotta go. My friend has arrived, but till next time.